In this video, moving data from our Matomo for WordPress installation to its own server. So you might have taken advantage of the free plugin supplied by Matomo to add its data analytics tool to your WordPress installation. And why wouldn't you? It's free, it's got features which you pay for other plugins. So it just makes sense to use this enterprise grade tracking software. Problem is that, like Matomo, you've probably grown over the years and you're using up lots of data, or you're looking at reports and they're taking a long time to load, and it's sort of a good sign that perhaps you need to move on to a dedicated server to track your Matomo, and you want to take all that useful historical data with you. So in this video we'll be going over the steps to go through to get that done. It's a little fiddly, but if you follow the steps carefully, it's pretty straightforward. So here's what's happening. Your WordPress is installed on a server and it's running on a database. And just think of a database as a big filing cabinet with all your images and text stored in one place. When you install the Matomo plugin, it took up some of that space and it's growing all the time. That's because you're getting more visitors all the time and it's keeping historical reports. You can always configure Matomo to delete those bits of data, but it's useful to have looking over historical reports. What you can do is, without losing any of that data, copy it onto Matomo self-hosted. So that's just a standalone version of Matomo, industrial grade. It can take lots of data, configured correctly, it won't slow down. It's great. Or you can export the data and put it on the cloud service, which comes with all the plugins. Whichever option you decide to use, you always have to go through and export to an on-premise installation. So today we're going to go through the steps of that, and before we do that we need to get our prerequisites under control. So what do we need to get started? Well, obviously we're going to need a WordPress site with the Matomo Analytics plugin installed. There are two plugins you can use for Matomo. One is for your WordPress and one is for sending the data out to the cloud or a on-premise installation. So just make sure you got the right plugin first. If you're already exporting your data to or tracking to a self-hosted or a cloud service, you don't need to watch this video any further. It's already all done. Next up, you'll need the Matomo migration plugin installed. So let's have a look at a base install of WordPress and what that looks like with the Matomo plugin installed. So here it is in all its glory. It's just completely out of the box installed, and it's got the Matomo plugin. You can see the Matomo Analytics, Ethical Stats and Powerful Insights. If the plugin on your one doesn't say that, it's not the plugin that we need to be dealing with today. You already sorted out for self-hosted tracking. What we do need to install is the migration plugin, and this is the tool which pulls all the data out of your WordPress site and sends it to our on-premise installation. To do that, we go down to the Matomo Analytics menu, choose Marketplace and install plugins. And here it'll say we need to download this other plugin first to install the plugin. So we click on download and it'll download a file, and then once we've downloaded that file we're going to go into the plugins admin and install it onto our WordPress. So I've just browsed my computer and found the file, and I'm going to click on install now. I want to activate the plugin, and we can see in our plugin list now we've got this marketplace for WordPress. So we go back down to Matomo Analytics, go to our marketplace, go to install plugins, and you'll see the screen changes and I'll have a whole list of plugins I can install. And the one we want to find is called Migration. Well, it's this one here. So we just click on install, it'll go away and think about it, install it, activate the plugin, and it's good to go. So that's that prerequisite done. Let's move on to the next. So you also need a full Matomo on-premise installation, so the data's got to go somewhere. We can't just export it into a file and pass it on to somebody. It's got to go from your WordPress onto a Matomo full installation. Most shared hosts will have an installer page where you can go through and just install Matomo. That's all you need to do is install that. If it doesn't and you need to do it manually, just let me know in the comments and I'll go through step by step installing a pretty base standard Matomo installation. But it's pretty straightforward, and hopefully your shared host will have all the features available to install it without too much hassle. So you need an IP address and credentials for an on-premise database. So when you install your Matomo locally, you'll have a database, and that database will have a password, an IP address and a login. And if you don't know where to find that, if you can access the files on your FTP server within the configuration folder, there's a file called config, and right on top of that will be the credentials to log into the database as well as the location. So last thing, we need terminal access to the WordPress server. So where your WordPress server resides, we need to run a command. It'll transfer the data from your WordPress into the self-hosted installation. So with all those prerequisites met, we can now go through the dangerous part of transferring the data. Well, it's not dangerous. We can transfer the data from out of your WordPress into your self-hosted Matomo. So you're just pulling data off, you're not sort of adding data to your WordPress site, so don't be worried about doing any damage there. And if it doesn't work, it just won't appear in the other Matomo. It's not going to be any majors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it through a cPanel, which is the sort of the shared host way of organizing things. If you're familiar with running on servers and those sorts of things, this probably won't be too much of a learning curve for you, but if you're not used cPanel before, and cPanel is just a control panel for your website, and it sort of looks different across different versions. There's many different versions of cPanel. There's all sorts of different names for things as well, but if you just follow these steps, you should hopefully get the same result. So let's get into it. So here's the cPanel for the shared host that I'm using for this demonstration. Yours, like I say, might look a little bit different, and half of it's probably blurred out because it's got stuff in here you probably don't need to know about. If we scroll down and have a look at our features, we've got SSH access. If that means anything to you, you can access your server that way, but I'm just going to do it the easy way and just click on this option here called terminal. And this goes into the terminal of my server, and what I want to do is your WordPress is located on a folder on your server, and we need to navigate to the root of that folder. So I found it now. A lot of this will be blurred out because it's security related, but I'm in the folder of my WordPress installation, and if we go to the Matomo knowledge base, there's an article about running this command to copy the data across. So what it's saying here is the command to run to have the data copied from our WordPress database over to our full Matomo installation. So I'm just going to copy that across and put it into my terminal, and we need to change things like we need to change the target host IP address, the username, and the password, and the name of the database. I already know that, so I can just put those straight in, but those are sorts of things you will need to find out. So I've just pasted it in, and it's got the password. I know this is obviously not a password I use in general, it's just for this example, but it's Matomo 1234. The username is Matomo, and the host is, generally the host is always going to be 127.1, but it could be different if you're sending the data to a server which isn't on the same server as the one you've got. It'll be a different number. But if anything goes wrong, it's going to tell you what's wrong. So I'm going to type this in, and I know it's going to come up with an error just for demonstration purposes, and the error is cannot connect to target database. And why is that? And it's because I've got the wrong database name in. So let's put the right database name in, which is Matomo_backup. And now it's asking me if I really want to do this. As a test, you can type in dry run, and you'll see it here in the commands -- dry run. So what that'll do is it'll attempt to do the migration, but not actually do it. So if there's any errors that come up during the process, rather than have a dodgy data transfer, you gotta go back and fix those things before transferring it again. I'm pretty confident this is going to work out, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so you just missed another awesome error, which you'll learn to love. It's called MySQL prepare error. My SQL server has gone away for no reason. So we just ran the code, we ran the command again, and it's come with another error now saying Matomo_backup site doesn't exist, and that's because it is using a prefix. So we need to alter the code just to add that prefix on, so it'll go through and copy it across. And now you're saying to yourself, man, this is causing lots of errors. It doesn't really. I'm just demonstrating to you what could go wrong, and you'll know what to do to fix those errors. So for this, we'll just have to add the prefix on so it knows what to do. So we know that the prefix is Matomo _. So what we're going to do now is, just to prove this works, we're going to go into the self-hosted Matomo and just prove there's no extra site in here which already has the data. So here's our self-hosted Matomo. It's new. It's got nothing in it apart from just the startup site that they always come with. So we go to admin and websites, manage. Here it is here, and we can look at this one on the dashboard. and because it's got this screen, this is called the no data screen. So we know there's no data inside the instance. So let's go back and run the command and transfer the data across. So we'll just say yes because we know it should work. So it's transferred the data across. It's done super quick because there's virtually no data on the website. If you've got a lot of data, this could take several hours to do, and it's best just to leave it doing it. If there's any errors along the way, firstly, if you have got a lot of data, choose that dry run option first, just to make sure it gets through the whole process without any issues. And technically, it should be able to do the whole thing without any problems. So we jump back into the self-hosted instance, we should see an extra website. So we'll jump into the admin, go to websites and manage, and sure enough, there's the extra website called Migrate Me. It should be number 2, but technical demonstration, obviously I tried this first to make sure it worked, so it's grabbed number 3. So if we go to the dashboard and hide this page for an hour and choose Migrate Me, we should see the one visit that I did earlier on today. So it's awesome. We've got the data from out of the WordPress site into a self-hosted instance, and if we wanted to, we could include or add the new plugin to our WordPress so it tracks all the data directly out of WordPress, now taking all that load off our WordPress database. But if we wanted to move the cloud, there's one more step, and that's exporting the database from the on-premise installation into an SQL file to share with Matomo to put on their cloud service. Let's do that now. If we have a look at the Matomo knowledge base, there's an article here on how to export the database. We'll just copy this command back into the terminal we've been using previously for moving the data across from WordPress to our on-premise install. So I filled in the blanks here on the code and run it, and it's pretty quick because the database is tiny, and once we're done we can see the SQL file here that we need to supply to Matomo to import into their cloud service. Hopefully you found it useful. It's a bit technical, but once you got all your ducks in a row, it's pretty straightforward to get that database out and into a self-hosted installation, perhaps onto the cloud service to get hold of all those premium features. If you're not familiar with Matomo, definitely check out this channel. I've got little videos covering a 21-day course for all the particular features of Matomo. It's just a quick overview, but I'll be doing them a bit more in depth a bit later on. But if you're just getting started, it'll be a really great place to get up and running. Aside from that, thanks for watching.